our world hungers for authentic connections, authentic relationships, we don't want to be sold on anything. We want real, tangible expressions of connection with other people around us, not by ourselves. So this idea of experience and participation and the images and the icons, they're so enriched when they happen with other people. I mean, that's the first thing that happens for us as individuals when we end up alone in a situation, participating in an amazing experience, and we call somebody right away. We get on the phone. We have to tell somebody else about it because we want to take that experience and have it connect back to the relationships of our life.
Back to our theme of coffee. Coffee really is a clarifying drink. It's so much easier to think and ponder and consider and reconsider when you have a cup of coffee in your hand. I think that's why coffee and rational discourse have always gone hand in hand, really, is because it kind of sharpens our wits, clears our mind, and really does enhance the connections that we have with one another. As coffee connects us, it invites us into a better experience, a shared experience. I mean, why else would two people meet for a cup of coffee? You wouldn't go out of your way to schedule a cup of coffee over misery. Connecting with others, it's not merely a social convention, and it's not obligatory FaceTime either. Connecting with each other is more along the lines of dynamic interpersonal connecting, and it allows us to feel the chemistry between one another, whether it's a new friend or an old friend that we're getting reconnected with. If you question whether people really are hungry and passionate about connecting with one another, all you have to do is log on to the internet. The internet is a virtual community in a disconnected world. The World Wide Web exploded onto the scene not because it was a new technology for you and I to play around with, but because it helped us discover a new way to connect with one another. You can easily document the search for connectedness on the internet just by looking at what's available, from file sharing groups to blogs to online social editing groups called wikis to online peer network groups such as Facebook, MySpace, Match.com, eHarmony, Friendster, Meetup. Those are just to name a few. But remember, all these contacts and connections on the internet, they do not equal relationships. Cell phones are kind of like a relationship. In fact, you kind of have to hire a divorce attorney to get out of some of your relationship contracts with cell phones. And sometimes some cell phone contracts last longer than most marriages nowadays. The first buyers of cell phones were wealthy white people. Less than 20 years later, more than half of all U.S. Americans, that's 150 million people, have mobile phones. Cell phones embody another symptom of the human hunger for connectedness.
Hey, listen, I got a life and death call on this phone. My battery's about to die. Do you have a charger?
Sure. Yeah, why don't you take a number? Okay.
Excuse me.
I'm
sorry, it'll
sir.
just take a second.
I'm with a customer. If you'll just take a number.
Excuse me, miss, please. I have an emergency.
Sorry, sweetie, I'm on break. Take a number.
No, I don't want to take a number. Now who's gonna give me that charger?
Dude, here's your charger.
Thank you.
I'll be there in a little bit. I love you too. Bye. Coffee, just like our cell phones, leads to conversations. And conversations lead to connections. And that's what we're all hungering and thirsting for, is connections with one another. I mean, we literally can't live without it. Starbucks literally gives away a free living room with every cup of coffee. That's why 33 million people weekly come to Starbucks to sit in the big comfy chairs, to enjoy the environment around them, because this becomes a third place for them. A place not just for a cup of coffee, but a place to connect with other human beings, to connect with each other, a relationship builder.
Church used to be the third place of choice. And by church, I mean these buildings and the gathering of the saints, the gathering of Christians, the gathering of the followers of Jesus coming together. This used to be the third place of choice. And what I mean by third place is we have our home, we have our work, and then that third place that we would spend most of our time connecting with each other. Nowadays, that's not what church has become. Most of the time, what we see today with a church or a gathering of followers of Jesus is people come to be convinced of some truth, or they're already convinced of that truth, so they come to get their convictions, their beliefs reaffirmed, or to have somebody else tell them what you believe is true. But that's not the way these gatherings and these buildings were even used for. The church used to be a place for us to connect with one another, for us to truly connect with our community in a deeper way. We remember what Genesis said, that God told man, it's not good for you to be alone. And from that point on, all of Scripture has been written for a community, for us living in community, connecting with one another. We desire connection. And this church, it used to be the place that we would go to have that connection with one another met. The gospel is a gospel of connection. And really, it's a gospel of relationship. And that relationship is a relationship with God. And that's really what we're all seeking and after, is to truly be connected with God. There's this guy, his name was Fred Reichel. He's a loyalty expert, author, communicator, worked with businesses, helped them to understand their customer base and if their customer base was truly connecting with them as a business. But Fred came up with what he called the NPS, Net Promoter Score. And it really was only a one-question test, but it was a question that a business could ask its customers. And that question was this: would you recommend us to a friend? Some might call it an evangelism score, or the customer evangelism score. So I want to ask you this question. If I could ask you one thing about your relationship with God, not what you know about God, not what you think you know about God, not what you want to know about God, but if I can ask you one question about your relationship with God, 7 words, it's this: